On this Sunday night, it was not to be. Canada's crushing defeat and history-making goal.
It was the first best 5 minutes of Canadian football history.
What went wrong and what's next? Canada's ambitious Indo-Pacific blueprint to counter China's economic aggression on the international stage. Plus, the after-dinner damage control for Donald Trump. Why did the former president, a rapper and a white nationalist, wine and dine together? And a new approach to dementia care.
It is an absolute godsend. Absolutely.
The European treatment model shaping Ontario's strategy.
Global National with Farah Nasser.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight in Qatar, where Canada's World Cup hopes have been dashed after a heartbreaking defeat by Croatia. But history was also made today by the Canadian men's soccer team, scoring our country's first ever goal at the world's biggest soccer tournament, even if it wasn't enough. Soccer star Alphonso Davies, born to Liberian parents at a refugee camp before resettling in Canada, did something the 1986 team couldn't, scored a goal 67 seconds into the game. Sadly, our fortunes ended there. Croatia went on to wipe Canada 4-1, gutting our hopes of advancing to the next stage. But for Canadian fans in Qatar and back home, the game was worth every second.
It was the first best 5 minutes of Canadian football history. Scoring Davies 2 minutes in, it was amazing.
Happy we made it here, but was hoping to at least get one win.
I was so happy to be here today for the 2 minutes because it just felt like everybody was wanting the same thing, and so being able to watch Alphonso Davies just head that thing right into the corner of that net was unbelievable.
Seeing them play so well, it's just really nice to finally see Canada on the big stage.
Oh, it's exhilarating. They finally scored a goal, first time in like 30 years, so that was fantastic. And Davies, the Wonder Boy, did it.
Joining me now from just outside the stadium in Qatar is Joshua Kloke, a writer for The Athletic, who's been closely following the Canadian men's team's entire World Cup journey. He recently released a book about all of it just before the tournament called The Voyagers. Josh, it's great to have you with us. I mean, first of all, I have to ask you, that historic goal from Alphonso Davies off the top of the game, what was it like to be in there? And what was it like to be in there for the whole game?
Well, yeah, there is a moment just before Alphonso Davies gets his head on that incredible cross from Tajon Buchanan where, the stadium does just go silent a little bit, perhaps because they know what's coming. Look, it was incredible. It was an incredible display of all the talent that Alphonso Davies had. And you could just kind of feel this release from the Canadian team that finally they got over that first hump. One of their stated goals was to score a goal at the World Cup. And now that they have it, it's just such an iconic moment too. And something that I hope, Canadians talk about for a long time.
Yeah, I think the cheers were heard from here to Qatar. But we know now that Canada started crumbling just after that moment of glory. What do you think went wrong for their performance?
They ran up against a very, very smart Croatian team. Croatia's midfield three is about as smart a midfield three as you'll find in international football today. Once that midfield three kind of figured out the timing of Canada's presses, the moments when Canada would press, they realized where Canada would be vulnerable. So I think once you run up against a team that has those kind of smarts and that has, more importantly than that, the experience, right? That's what Canada doesn't have. Once Croatia figured out their press, it was game over.
Canada doesn't have the experience yet. So that leads me to my next question. What do you think is next for this team and for Canadian men's soccer beyond this tournament?
Look, Canada leaving here with a result is something that they can be proud of. But I think they have to look at this tournament as a whole and really study the way other teams and other organizations especially operate. And I think being around these world-class organizations like Croatia, it's an opportunity to study from them. So I hope, just as someone who wants to see the game grow, that Canada will have studied, all the organizations they can here and can take those learnings and apply them to 2026.
You've written a book about this, as I mentioned. You're so intertwined into what's happening here. One of many journalists there who are covering it. I know in my house with my husband and my son, it was just such sadness. What is the mood like among the Canadians there and with you?
Well, I mean, my mood is secondary. You could definitely feel the Canadian fans in attendance deflated. And I say that because, they showed up so well for the game against Belgium. So I think for a lot of Canadians, there's probably a lot of sadness with the realization that there's still so far to go to be that top soccer nation. But you have to believe as well that they're going to show up well for Morocco because, when that support was at its best, I think that's when Canada was playing well too, right? So they need that support as well.
Joshua Kloke, thanks so much for your coverage. There is a Canadian championship to celebrate at the World Cup of Tennis. A little later on in the newscast, Eric Sorensen is going to look at Team Canada's tennis stars, the ones turning heads this year at the Davis Cup. Turning to trade relations now, the federal government unveiled its long-awaited Indo-Pacific strategy today to move away from over-reliance on China and tap into one of the world's fastest-growing economies. By 2040, the Indo-Pacific region is expected to make up half of the world's economic activity. And as David Akin reports, the new strategy seeks to protect national interests without compromising Canadian values and principles.
There's a generational global shift happening.
Many in Canada agree and have been calling for years for a reset of Canada's approach to the Indo-Pacific.
Certainly, this is a good thing. It's a long overdue, yes, but what I've seen in there is content rich and it's backed up by dollars. So the intentions are pure. I think what matters now, David, is we're able to convert those intentions into actions and those actions into actual achievements.
The growing economic importance of Asia's Pacific countries is one thing, but this new Indo-Pacific strategy is mostly motivated by China's rise as a global actor and its advancement of unilateral claims, foreign interference, and increasingly coercive treatment of other countries. And so, Canada will deploy more naval forces and other military assets in the Pacific.
We will challenge China when we need to, and we will cooperate with China when we must.
Canada will also beef up its cybersecurity infrastructure and may restrict some Chinese investment in Canada.
We must be vigilant against the very real and serious threats of foreign interference, cyber attacks, hostile activities, ideological extremism, disinformation, and international crime networks.
The government believes one of the best ways to deal with the rise of an aggressive China is to strengthen relations with its friends in the regions, especially India.
And as India, the world's largest democracy, becomes the most populous country in the world, its strategic importance and leadership will only increase.
Canada will seek to begin trade talks with India that might lead to the kind of free trade deals Canada has with the likes of Japan and Korea. Canada will boost academic and cultural exchanges, and Canada promises to beef up visa processing capacity in India, specifically in New Delhi and Chandigarh.
We've got to address that because it is it's a black mark on you globally if you can't help get the people in that you're trying to recruit into your country.
And to do all this, the government is prepared to spend just over $2 billion over the next 5 years. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.
Record-setting inflation is taking its toll on another commodity, parcels being mailed out for the holidays. Sending a package through Canada Post or through courier services is going to cost you extra, something many Canadians are already discovering. Ross Lord reports.
For the Bates family in Nova Scotia, this is precious cargo.
It's Christmas presents for grandchildren and their parents.
The weight of the parcel is compounded by a fuel surcharge of almost 40% to have Canada Post ship it overseas.
I'm going to say that to ship that box to where it's going will probably be in the $125 range.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation suggests the Crown Corporation is going too far.
With 40% being added, we're going to see tens of millions of dollars in increased profit for Canada Post.
Canada Post says a fuel surcharge has been standard practice for nearly 20 years and simply reflects market dynamics, like the price of diesel that's risen to more than $2 per litre. For customers, it makes holiday parcels yet another hit in a year full of cost increases.
It has gone up, I have noticed. I just did it for the first time in a few months now, and it was about $12, $15 more.
Canada Post is not alone in adding a fuel surcharge on parcels. At Purelator, which is 90% owned by Canada Post, a package weighing 2 kilograms sent from Halifax to Toronto costs $50 plus another $18 in fuel surcharge after taxes. That's $82.78. The fuel amount, 35% of the base price. Purelator says its surcharge is set monthly based on a 4-week average diesel price. Some customers are looking for ways to avoid the extra costs.
And found out the prepaid boxes are the best way to go. They don't have a fuel surcharge, and you can put a certain amount in for a certain amount of money, up to $34 anywhere in Canada.
Another escalating price that's taxing the creativity of Canadians. Ross Lohr, Global News, Halifax.
Team Trump does damage control. Coming up, the former president's troubling dinner guest and why he's blaming rapper Kanye West. It's been less than 2 weeks since Donald Trump announced he was running in 2024. But already the former president's team is in damage control mode, and it's all over a dinner. A Holocaust-denying white supremacist dinner guest, to be exact, at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Also there, controversial rapper Kanye West, who says he's also running for president. Jennifer Johnson reports on what this early scandal could mean for Trump's presidential ambitions.
He's still the biggest draw in the Republican Party, but former President Donald Trump is in hot water again. Last Tuesday, Trump hosted a dinner at his Mar-a-Lago home with music mogul Kanye West, who has been denounced for his anti-Semitism. West brought along Nick Fuentes, a politically active white supremacist and Holocaust denier.
We've got the white Christian men that built this country the first time, and we'll do it again.
Word that Fuentes was at the dinner quickly spread. Just as quickly, Trump took to his social media platform, claiming the dinner was West's idea, and he didn't know Fuentes. But West posted a video with a different take.
Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes.
The president has long bragged about his close relationship with Jewish Americans, although he received only 30% of the Jewish vote in the 2020 election. Just over a week ago, Trump made it clear he's counting on their support in 2024.
And soon, with the help of the Republican Jewish coalition and patriots all across this land, we will be a great nation again.
But Jewish friends of Trump's and many Republican leaders are now questioning his lack of judgment.
It's very troubling, and it shouldn't happen, and we need to avoid those kinds of empowering the extremes.
On vacation in Nantucket, President Joe Biden was asked to comment.
What do you think of Donald Trump having dinner with the white nationalists?
But only said, "You don't want to hear what I think," while the White House officially condemned the dinner. This latest controversy comes as Trump continues to battle the Department of Justice over its investigation of classified documents the former president brought to his Florida home.
I would expect that we are going to see something either at the very end of this year or the beginning of next year with regard to a potential indictment in this matter.
As a candidate for president, Trump has no legal protection against any indictment, nor are many Jewish Americans forgetting his relationship with Kanye West, who, in a bizarre twist, announced last week he asked Trump to be his running mate in the 2024 presidential race. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
Anger over China's strict zero-COVID strategy is reaching a boiling point as unprecedented protests unfold in major Chinese cities.
Xi Jinping! Xi Jinping!
A large group of protesters yelling "Down with Xi Jinping" in Shanghai, demanding an end to lockdowns. Some dragged out and arrested by police. There have also been similar scenes of disobedience in Beijing and Nanjing. A rare wave of public anger comes after an apartment fire in northwest China this past Thursday killed 10 people. Many speculate COVID lockdown measures made it tougher for residents to escape the flames. Rescue crews on the southern Italian resort island of Ischia off the coast of Naples are combing through thick mud and debris tonight after Saturday's deadly landslide. At least 7 people are known to have died and another 12 people are still missing. The sheer force of the slide swept away cars and buses. Parts of the island were buried in 6 to 7 meters of mud after 126 millimeters of rain fell in just 6 hours, the island's heaviest rainfall in some 20 years. Ahead, learning lessons from Europe, a new approach to dementia care now in Ontario with a long waiting list. Dementia is on the rise in Canada to the point where 1 in 5 Canadians will experience caring for someone living with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or any other of the neurological diseases under the dementia umbrella. Anybody who has a parent with dementia knows just how hard it is and also how few resources are out there to help them out. As Mike Drewa reports, Ontario is now borrowing a page from a European treatment model, and it's already in high demand.
The tipping point for Joni Shiner came about 5 years ago. That's when her now 83-year-old husband Murray's Alzheimer's took a turn. He began to wander, forget his pills, and as time passed, his ability to navigate everyday life declined. When this picture was taken, Joni says her husband didn't know he was holding their grandson. There are still good moments, just not as many as there used to be.
Otherwise, he sits in his chair and he goes like this. And he sleeps all day. He falls asleep in front of the TV. He maybe will get up for lunch, maybe.
61% of Canadians with dementia still live at home, but so many of them struggle. 1 in 4 suffer from depression. Another 28% require extensive assistance, which caregivers like Joni say falls short of what is needed. So the province of Ontario is trying something new. This centre in Toronto's North End will soon be the second in the region to offer adult day programs, keeping Murray active and giving Joni a break.
It is an absolute godsend. Absolutely.
Circle of Care CEO Carrie Lucky has been trying to get the centre built since 2016, when her mother Margaret was living in a long-term care home.
It was the vision why I wanted this, because I didn't have this for my mother.
The model of care in the province, she reasoned, was outdated, with the number of dementia cases outpacing the ability to care for them.
We have no choice but to change. Absolutely. We have to. We have to look at different models.
So they look to countries like Denmark and France, where an approach to keep patients more engaged in life has led to increased behavioral and cognitive scores, which in turn delays the need for long-term care.
They love this.
Instead of sitting in front of a TV, they play games, anything to keep their minds active.
We look at what they're able to do and not what they're not able to do. And that's the cornerstone of our practice, engaging them.
This centre won't be open until the first week of December, yet they already have a waiting list. The demand is so great, Public Health has already told them they can increase capacity.
They need more and more. I am so thankful.
This hasn't even opened yet.
They need more. They need more.
You can bet other provinces will be taking note as more Canadians seek support for living with dementia. Mike Drewa, Global News, Toronto.
The BC government says it's pulling out all the stops to try to recruit more doctors to the province.
We can't privatize our way to a better healthcare system. That's why we're taking action to get more internationally trained doctors off the sidelines.
The province's new plan will triple the number of spaces available for foreign-trained doctors and will expedite the process of accreditation before physicians arrive in Canada. More than 1 million British Columbians are without a family doctor. An update now to a story we brought you yesterday. Winnipeg police have arrested a man after a random kidnapping in the Portage-La Prairie area on Friday. Michael Stephen Klimchuk was arrested and charged on Sunday morning. He was wanted in connection to the kidnapping of a 25-year-old woman and her 2-year-old daughter. And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Farah Nasser, and on behalf of our whole team here at Global National, I want to thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Tonight's Your Canada is the North Saskatchewan River with a view of Edmonton. We love seeing Your Canada, so please keep emailing us those photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.